White guilt.
Let's talk about it. Like, black men got the vote before women.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to, until Joey and I opening stuff, I used to think like white men had privilege, but then black men had a little bit more privilege than white women, and then unfortunately black women further down, right?
Yep.
But that's not necessarily true, but it like, I just look at like, well, black men got to vote before white women, but then they didn't make it hard for white women to vote after we got the vote. They tried not to give us the vote, but once we got the vote, there wasn't things in place that made it hard for us to vote, as opposed to...
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's oh God, who was it? There's a comedian that said it way better than I can imagine it, and it was, totally paraphrased, white men don't have to try hard to keep white women from voting because they got to go home to white women. And so it's this idea that, like, you know, it's easy for us to say, don't let them vote, but when the them is in your house, it's a lot harder, right, to...
Right.
And so, yes, I think that order is correct. But once women got the ability to vote, it was, you know, difficult, you know, for men to fight that. Like, you've got it now,
right.
And I'm looking at you and my mother-in-law and her daughter in her house, and it's hard for me to say, you're not going to the polls. All the things we're doing against that, like all the things that were done to black people to keep them from the polls, were done to white women in white men's households. It would never fly, right?
Right.
But with black people, it got to be this sense of other.
Right.
And so it was much easier to be able to say, we can keep them from the polls. We can keep them from voting. We can keep them from having rights. You know, those things still exist. There are still things against women today. I wish I could remember exactly what it was. A woman was saying that in one of the counties, she was trying to get a business loan in North Carolina. Within the last decade, I'm pretty sure. She couldn't do it because her husband had to sign for her. She couldn't get a business loan from the bank because she was married and her husband didn't sign. So she couldn't get one. This was within the last decade, right?
Wow.
So those things still exist, but they're quieter.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I feel like, you know, I'm guessing the reason, but again, if this comedian is right, it's because we're in the household again. Like, I'm not going out picketing and saying, oh, my wife can't vote, she can't do stuff, I'm not letting her do it, I'm not letting her do it. But I can for those colored people over there, you know. So I think it's just an easy thing.
Because, so it's making someone an other.
Yes.
Because if they're an other, because I think
other
about Jewish
is the
people.
Important, yes.
Yeah, like, when I think of the Holocaust and, like, people that had families throwing up babies and shooting them. Like, but the only way you could do that is if these were others and not humans.
Yes.
Because, I mean, it's so bizarre to me, but I guess making someone different other, then you can treat them poorly.
I think the other aspect to it, so having been in the military, it's not that we were taught, but it happens, right? When I was in Desert Storm, when you are having to fight against a group of people, look, man, as an adult now, their beliefs and my beliefs probably weren't all that. We were just working for someone higher than us that had their own thing, right? But you're in that situation and you have to do it, and so it is also a self-defense mechanism to, you know what, I am not shooting against one of my brothers out there. I have to turn them into something else. And so, not to excuse it by any means, but yeah, I think that's just kind of what happened. Whether you believe in this thing or not, you know, what's the, you know, let's talk about Jewishness. Again, not to defend, but there was this saying that so many of the people that were in the Nazi party or who were in the military in Germany during the times, not actually believing in that. They just were doing their job. Someone above them told them to do this thing, go murder all those people, and they did. And to be able to do that, you have to turn them into an other, like almost immediately, right? The number of people who could not live with that is also really large. So there is that aspect to it. But yeah, it was a terrible time for us, and us as Americans on all sides.
Right.
And I think some of it was self-defense mechanisms. Anyone in psychology will totally recognize that sometimes we have to do this to turn this thing off inside us. And I think some of that is where white guilt is coming from too, in that this thing is being turned back on, and sometimes it's being turned back on for, when you find out. In fact, I know someone that literally found out that their grandfather was actually a Nazi. Found out at I don't remember what the dinner was for, but and the family just over committed the other way. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this is where we descend from, and
Wow.
we just all went to rights for everyone and doing as much stuff as they could, which is probably a great way to go about it, right? But this is sort of that white guilt thing. They found out that there was this horrible thing in their background and wanted to do something about it, rather than hiding it, which is what a lot of us would do. Grandfather was what? Okay, don't tell anyone. Don't bring it up. Everyone close in real tight, and
Right.
I think that tends to happen too.
The part that bothers me with some friends or whatever is they have white guilt, but they want to be absolved of it.